Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So yesterday I talked about finding and picking a deity to work with, and today we're going to talk about how to start building that relationship. So to begin, a really great place to start is to do some research. Again, you probably kind of did a bit if you were choosing one beforehand, but now's a really good time to really deep dive into that particular deity. So this could be a lot more Google searches, seeing what other people do when they have worked with that deity. There's usually at least one or two people, if not hundreds, that have worked with that one. And you can find videos of altars and dedications and affirmations and correspondences and myths here on YouTube, let alone on so many other websites. Also, if you have the funds and or if your library is well stocked in all things witchy, you might be able to get a handful of books on that deity as well, whether you pick the more academic side and just learning the myths as it is, or a lot of pagan authors have books on a variety of different deities. You might not get an entire book dedicated to that one. Pagan Portals does have a lot, and they're coming out with new ones all the time, so always kind of check in. They've got a number of them that used to not be there. But you might end up just having a book on Celtic deities, and it's just a section in there. Regardless, do some research, find out correspondences, offerings that might have worked for other people, stuff like that. You might also find some generic mannerisms for the deities. I say generic because it might not present to you that way. For some people, the Morrigan comes off as a very aggressive deity. She is the war goddess, after all, so naturally a little aggressive there. However, some people, she comes to them as more of a motherly figure. Might be a little more dark, more like Morticia vibes, but nonetheless a mother. She might also come to you in one of her other guises. She is a sovereign deity, so she might come to you more as a queen, not a battle. Same with Odin, for example. Odin can come to you as the warrior type. He is a leader after all, and is, he's a little intense. He might also come to you as a magician because, if you've read his myths, he's really big into magic. He might also come to you as a god of the dead because that's what he does. And you might also get his writer poet type or even the wanderer. Every deity usually has a few different hats that they wear, so to speak. So you might only see one or two that are really common, and you might experience them completely differently. That doesn't totally invalidate you. Just know that some people will not take that to heart. There's a huge debate in the pagan community of the unverified personal gnosis, which I feel like it's kind of weird because what could really be verified? It was personal gnosis at some point, but that's my soapbox, not really for other people. But just keep in mind, your experience may not be what everyone else goes through. And what everyone else experiences might not be something that you experience. Even though it's common, doesn't mean it's going to happen for everybody. Okay, all of that said, now you've done some research, now let's get to the altar. So to begin, I don't recommend you go out and buy a statue for this deity just because they happen to possibly be coming into your life or you're wanting to invite them in. You don't need to go spend, because usually statues are expensive. Don't go wasting a bunch of money before you really have that connection. At most, maybe pick up a art print. Usually those aren't terribly expensive, and there's some wonderful artists out there, and just have the picture on your altar for now. Just make sure it's kind of secured because obviously you're probably going to have fire involved, and let's not burn your house down. Or you might want to get a generic god or goddess figure and then just kind of use that as your focal point for now until you decide if it's going to be a forever relationship. Sometimes deities just come in for a specific situation and then they continue on with their lives, and that's totally fine. Others come around and they stay for the duration of this entire incarnation. So what I like to do when I start to work with a deity is to set up a specific altar just for them. So again, you might want to have an art print or print something off of online and have that as kind of a back piece of some sorts to your altar. I like to use candles as a way to kind of set the intention of I'm doing a ritual, so I will have a candle that I will light for that deity. If you want to get a fancy candle, you could. Not required. I, right now, have been using all of my old tea lights that I've just been collecting over the years, and I've been using those as my deity candles. You could also use a spell candle that you just relight every day, or even go out and find one of the scented ones that you feel works with that deity. If it's a harvest deity, you might want to pick one of the autumn ones. An apple cinnamon kind of candle might work really well. And since it's a new deity, you might want to set up some protections. I've never had a problem with deities. Some people have. So just to have an extra bit of caution, maybe just cast a circle, cleanse your space, pretty much do all of your usual ritual routines that you would do. And then you might want to find a formal calling to them, there's usually a number of them written out that you could use. Or if you want to write one from your research that you've been doing, you could do that as well. Or you could just kind of use a generic calling and insert their name. And from that point forward, I am huge on just talking to a deity. I don't think you have to be very formal. And if you just come respectfully, that's not to say that you're just like kicking back with them. But you don't need to worry about like reading off of a script. And if you stumble on your words, like they don't care. But to sit down and explain either why you want to work with them and what you're hoping to get out of a relationship with them, or that you've been noticing a lot of signs from them and you're not sure if this is a temporary situation, if you're even on the right path, or if, yeah, for sure, they're definitely actually calling to you and they want to start a relationship with you. Because, of course, free will does include all of us humans. You don't have to work with a deity if you don't want to. They might want to and think it's for your better interest, but you still ultimately have the choice to do so or not. From there, if you decide to proceed, usually a great way to start building a relationship is to talk to them on a regular basis, whether you do that every day or a specific day of the week. Sit down, talk about what's going on with your life, and do meditations and different things to build a relationship with them. Don't immediately start asking stuff of them. That's pretty rude to meet somebody and then immediately make a bunch of demands. In fact, instead, I would start with giving small offerings and seeing which ones seem to be accepted or not. If you're not sure what to give, I usually start with the usuals that I do, which is like an incense of some sorts. I have a huge box of incense, so I'll just try different scents and see which one works. If they seem to care, most of them don't, because it just smells pretty. You might want to include more like mundane things, like a lot of people tend to use like food items to give as an offering and then later put it outside. Like for example, my fiance, he loves to give beer as an offering. He will pour a glass for himself and pour a glass for the gods and sit down and chit chat with them for a while. And then he'll pour it out either that night or the next day or so, and that's how he does his offerings. And he has found that certain flavors work better than others with the gods. So it's just a matter of seeing what is gonna work for you. And yeah, it's really just that simple, just kind of starting that communication and starting to build a relationship. And from there, you'll usually start to notice if it's reciprocated, or if you're just getting radio silence, it might be a sign that that's not one that wants to work with you, or might not be the one you should be working with right now. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful and gave you guys some ideas. Do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day, and I do have a Patreon, which is always linked down below if you want even more content from me. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.